All right, with your sketchbook, go in landscape style. Just kind of eyeball where you think the middle is, and let's draw a line down the middle there to section off that paper. All right. We're going to work in just the left side for right now. I highly recommend going very lightly with the lines that we're going to draw, with pretty much all the lines that we're going to draw. Unfortunately, I'll probably have to go a lot darker than I want to, just so that it shows up on the screen here, okay? And we're going to work with body proportions. We're not really getting any kind of details in the face, so you don't have to worry about that until next week, all right? Miss Jaffe wants me to go over this stuff with you because when she does this project with students, they're creating, you're doing DNA stuff and things like that, and this marker doesn't work. She's tired of getting pictures of faces that look like that, all right, and bodies that look like this with legs and feet, and this is what people will turn in, all right? So we're going to try to make them look a little bit more realistic. All right? So on the left side of your paper there, we're just gonna, I came down from the binding just a little bit. We'll see how well the lighting goes with this. And I kind of made a mark at the top. Again, these should all be pretty light. I'm gonna go pretty dark though. So we're just gonna draw a line down almost to the bottom. I left about the same amount of space on the bottom as I did at the top. And the figure we're drawing is just going to be straight on view. They're going to have their arms down to their side. Everything is going to be pretty simple to work with. We're not going to have anybody in a pose or anything like that. So the average adult body is 8 heads tall, all right? For you guys, if we were drawing junior high kids, you're looking at about 7 to 7.5, depending on what grade level you're in. But normally if you're drawing an adult, it's 8 heads. So whatever size the head is, we're going to make those measurements, and I'm going to show you how those measurements will relate to other parts of the body. All right? So with this line that we have here, we want to find the center. All right? So I guess I'm just kind of guessing where the center is, but I try to make them look at least pretty even. All right? There's a technique I use when I'm drawing quite a bit with my pencil instead of a ruler. You may use that as we go. It might help you. But I will, and sometimes if I can eyeball it, it's not too bad, but there'll be some smaller things that you may want to use this technique. I will put the point of my pencil where I'm going, and then I kind of put my thumbnail on the distance, and I can see that I'm off by a little bit here, okay? So sometimes I'll use my thumb and the pencil to gauge some certain sizes of things. I don't know if you've ever seen any artists, they'll be looking with their pencil. Sometimes they're measuring out different sizes of things. I started it. You're all good. So once we've got this centered, then what we're going to do is we're going to take these two sections and we're going to find the middle of those. So the top section here and then the bottom section. And then you're going to go in between each one of these and divide them in half. And that should give us 8 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So in this top one, we are just going to go with an oval that fills in that top space. And the shapes I'm going to use for this part right now are pretty much when I'm drawing people for anything. I will start with all these basic shapes, and like I said, I do them really lightly, and then I start adding their features, what kind of clothes they're wearing, or if they're making a pose, then I will show you how to do those things. Like I said, we're going to keep it kind of simple today, but we're going to stick with some basic shapes. So the neck just comes down just a little bit. It takes up about 1/3 of the next spacing. I'm actually going to make my lines a little bit longer so that we can see the different spacing in here. You guys don't have to do this part. And so then we have the upper torso area. It takes up about, it's going to take up the rest of this space. So it's going to be in between these two areas. And to find out how wide your shoulders should be, it's basically the human head turned to the side, all right? So that space that I used here, that if that's how big the head is, and I turn it to the side, I'm just going to kind of make a mark that this is about how wide, because that's about how long the head would be. And then what I'll do from those two spots is kind of make a couple shoulders off of the neck, and then I'm just going to kind of round it. I didn't go all the way to where the point was at. I kind of leveled it off at this line here. This is kind of about where your rib cage stops, around in this area here. This next space, I usually just kind of fill it in with a rounded kind of square, all right? This is kind of your pelvis area, your midsection here. Your belly button is in this region right about in here. If that gives you any idea what we're looking at. So just kind of a rounded square. And then your legs are going to take up the second half of your body here, all right? So a lot of times what I'll do is I kind of draw where the stuff is connected. So sometimes you will see this in my classroom here. And, you know, we've got our midsection, our upper torso, and then we have these joints that kind of hold the, you know, you got your knee and you got your hips. So sometimes when I'm drawing, it doesn't happen all the time, I'll put that section in there. For this, we don't have to do that. We're just going to kind of connect them here. The shape that we're going to use is going to take up these two spaces for our thigh, and it's kind of, I guess, oval shaped. It's a little bit bigger at the top, and then this is where the knee would go. So it's two spaces. Go a little darker here. And that's for both sides. Usually when I'm drawing these, I go pretty quick too, so that I can just get a nice light line in there. And then below the knee, we have the shin. So it's a similar shape, but it's going to be a little bit smaller. It's obviously bigger by the knee because it's kind of working its way down. You don't want to go all the way down to this last line here for the 8th head. That's where the feet, the bottom of the feet are going to rest. So I'm going to stop a little bit short with this spot below the knee. And then for the feet, I just kind of make a wedge, a little triangle shape. Normally people don't stand like this where their feet are both pointing out, but it's okay for what we're doing right now. And then we're going to go back up and add some arms here. So the arms would connect in here, and we're going to kind of go with similar shapes that we did for the legs. So I'm going to connect this one here, and I'm just going to go out all the way from the body just a little bit. This is taking up almost 2 head spaces, so the neck kind of takes in that, like I said, that third. But we're going from 1 to 2, so about where our upper torso and midsection kind of meet. That's where the elbow is going to be. So we can do that on both sides here. And then your forearm only takes up about 1 head space. And then I got a little circle for the wrist. And then just for a basic, I just do kind of a wedge shape or a triangle that doesn't have necessarily a point to it, just for the hands there. Used to be a long time ago when I started doing this stuff, I would start with the head, and then that measurement is what I would use to go down and measure all of the rest of the body. And I wouldn't draw this line and I wouldn't section it off. I highly recommend drawing that line and then whatever the head, or dividing it into your 8 spaces, and then that makes your head size. It does look a little smaller, and it probably will on this body, but you got to remember we're going to start adding some hair or whatever, or facial features to there, and we can always adjust these sometimes to the body, because sometimes people have a little bit different proportion. But if you stay with these 8 head shapes, you're going to have at least a realistic human body. All right. Now, if you were going to move an arm, maybe their arm is up, you just have to still figure that from the elbow to the wrist is still a head shape. So whatever that size is, if I make that size going up into here, I know that I can have the arm going upward if I wanted to do that. So you have to think about that when you're bending a leg to the side. Just think it's still going to be those shapes. When would it be a little bit different? Is if it was pointing at you. We're not going to get the same length if something is heading towards you. So if you've got somebody that's running and they're running towards you, this part here is not going to be two heads long, because it's now at a different angle. All right. If I was running this way, then it's still 2 and 1, and you still get those proportions. So if you got somebody that's running to the side, you'd still put those in there. All right. So here's what we're looking for this half here. Since you have learned the proper proportions, I want you to, again, pretty lightly make your lines again on here and divide it up. Now watch here. I will show you real quick so that way you can get rolling. See if I got mine in here. All right. And then we don't have to worry about the face for today, but I would like you to start erasing some of the lines. So what happens is I start taking this shape and I start building around it. So this stuff will start to get erased. I will start adding the clothing to it. So I started adding a shirt to this character. I have no idea who he is. I started giving him pants, and I started giving him shoes. So a lot of these lines that I have in here will start to go away, and I will start working from that framework to start putting whatever kind of clothes I want to go with that person. Okay? Not really concerned about the face. Don't worry about that. Don't stress out about that. Let's just spend the rest of class working on trying to get a nice human being on that side. Okay? Are there questions for me? All right. We'll let you keep working. I'll come around and help. Move these 2 up. And that's what we're doing for today.